Bad week.
Who's had a good week, Kat?
So this is a classically caveated good week. It's not necessarily a great week for those that enjoy alcohol, nor the alcohol lobby.
Aww.
But it's a good week for European livers.
Good week for our livers. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, I have to admit that this is more like it used to be worse for European livers than a real solid good week.
You know what? This week I'll take it.
All right, drum roll. The WHO called for the European alcohol labels to include a warning for cancer, much like tobacco.
Woohoo! This is your big cause for celebration. This is the good week.
Sorry.
Why is this happening now in a week where we all should be drinking more, in my opinion?
Well, maybe you'll feel differently at the end of this segment.
Yeah.
So this was spurred on after a survey found that the vast majority of Europeans have absolutely no idea about the connections between alcohol and cancer.
I feel like that includes me, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it also until recently included me. When you think about like the risks of drinking, what comes up?
Probably like liver disease, maybe heart disease.
Yeah, lots of people say driving, but you're actually way more likely to die from alcohol-induced cancer than in an alcohol-induced car accident. The WHO was alarmed when they found out that only 15% of Europeans know about the link between alcohol and breast cancer, which is in spite of the fact that 800,000 Europeans die per year because of alcohol-related cancer.
Wow. I genuinely had no idea about that.
I know, I had no idea. And of the women who die, 60% is from breast cancer.
God, related to alcohol.
I know, I find it absolutely wild. And in the general population's defense and in our defense, it's not super surprising that we don't know about this because only 3 EU countries have health warnings on alcohol. And Ireland is actually the first country in Europe that will require specific cancer warnings, but that's only starting in 2026.
Oh, yeah. We talked about this on the show, didn't we? Like a long time ago, I think.
Yeah, there was strife because Italy got upset that the wine was being bashed.
Yes. So I don't know if you're even able to tell me this, but like how much extra risk do I face of getting cancer if I drink too much?
Yeah, so it varies quite a lot depending on like how much you drink, your genetics, all these other variables. And as we know from other toxins, the alcohol lobby has really used this fact that it's quite difficult to make this super direct connection of like this person definitely has cancer because of their drinking. But it turns out that even low level and moderate drinking causes measurable risks. One representative from the WHO put it like this: we cannot talk about so-called safe level of alcohol use. It doesn't matter how much you drink. The risk to the drinker's health starts at the very first drop of any alcoholic beverage.
Boo.
I know. The only thing we can say for sure is that the more you drink, the more harmful it is. But then in other words, the less you drink, the safer it is. So Katie, what do you think is low and moderate?
Oh, what's a low amount of drinking? I mean, Macron has 2 glasses a day and he considers that to be reasonable. I'm going to say that like, presumably not every day is good. I'm going to say like 4 glasses of wine a week. I call that moderate. But I am French.
Yeah, so it's changed quite a lot in recent years, but right now moderate drinking is considered to be 1 drink a day and low drinking is 1 or 2 drinks a week. And depending on the study, it turns out that just 1 drink a day increases a woman's risk of breast cancer by 10 to 22%.
Wow.
And that even 1 drink a week can increase her risk by 4%. In men, there are quite comparable risks of colon cancer. And according to the US General Surgeon last year, actually, moderate drinking raises your chance of mouth cancer by a whopping 40%. I just find that astonishing. I had no idea.
Yeah, I just think most of us don't draw that connection, right? Like you maybe think smoking and mouth cancer, but not drinking and mouth cancer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm loving this conversation, obviously, Katz. Apart from exposing myself to greater cancer risks by drinking, what other risks are we talking about here that maybe we don't think about so often?
Yeah, honestly, it affects almost everything. The
great.
main mechanism is that alcohol affects your DNA, which is why it has so many different health risks.
It affects my DNA.
Yeah, it damages your DNA. And so any level of alcohol increases your risk of heart issues, of liver functioning, aging skin, the size of your brain. Now that I have spent a few minutes totally freaking you all out, I will say these risks are all averages and it's still marginal, right? Like you're still unlikely to get any of these fatal diseases because of a glass of wine a week. And like everything we do in life seems to have a risk. But I think these facts are really important to challenge the prevailing story we have around alcohol. 1 drink a day knocks off 3 months of your life expectancy. And if that doesn't sound huge or like difficult to understand, then maybe we should make that comparison with cigarettes. The risk of early death caused by 1 cigarette a day is the same as 1 drink a day.
So can I have one of each?
I don't know what to say to that.
No, sorry, that's bad maths.
And if you drink 2 to 4 drinks a day, that's 10 to 15 cigarettes a day. So I think what our sense of normal is just like really not at all in line with the facts. Another thing that strikes me about this story is something that Dominic pointed out when we were talking about prepping the show. I think Europeans think that our relationship to alcohol is similar to the rest of the world, but it really isn't. We're home to the heaviest drinkers in the world. The average European above the age of 15 drinks 9.5 litres of pure alcohol a year. There's quite a bit of variation. And the good news is that alcohol consumption in Europe has dropped by 21% between 2000 and 2019.
Yeah, I was going to say it feels certainly amongst my circle like it's down and, you know, more people are doing dry January and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also really a lot less popular amongst the Gen Zers. So it is worth noting that it's going down, but it's also worth noting that it's really remarkably a lot lower in the rest of the world. One reason is that in Muslim countries, it's also just really a lot lower. But where our average is 9.5 litres, more than half of African countries average at close to 0 litres per year. And most of Asia is also about half.
Wow. You know, it's no secret that our continent enjoys a drink. Like I live in France where wine is basically a religion. But yeah, I don't really think that often about how different that culture of alcohol is compared to different parts of the world. You mentioned this already, that Gen Zers, loads of them basically don't drink at all. You're not quite a Gen Z. I think you're technically a young millennial, right? You're a good few years younger than me, though. What's your own relationship with drinking? Are you one of these people that's just basically stopped doing it?
Yeah, it's actually really shifted quite a lot in the past few years, which happened because 2 years ago, I couldn't drink for like 8 months because of something medical. And that just really fundamentally changed something. I grew up in Spain, as you know, and I was like actively encouraged to drink wine from 12. And in retrospect, I drank really quite a lot in my teenage years, like almost every day. And it would make me feel all grown up. And I loved that the adults like let me be a grown up. And I don't think it was particularly strange, but it's quite shocking in retrospect. And I mean, before I started drinking less, like no one talked to me about the fact that I might have an alcohol problem, but daily drinking was definitely very casual. So when this doctor asked me like, oh, so you won't be able to drink for the next half a year, is that going to be a problem? I had this weird confronting moment where I was like, oh, that is something I'm going to notice. Like I'm going to have to make an effort here, which was really a moment where I thought, wow, this is maybe a bigger deal than I realized because it's just so socially accepted. In the time since that, I've come to drink way less. But I'm wondering how that is for you after being pregnant.
Well, I can certainly say that as the parent of a very small person, there are many evenings where I'm like, God, I could do with a glass of wine.
Fair enough.
But it's funny because I feel like the culture here is also changing quite a lot here in France. Like, as I said, there are more people doing dry January, even though as an initiative, it is not supported by the government, kind of hilariously.
Like actively not?
Well, actively not, yeah, which may or may not have something to do with the fact that this is a wine-producing country, so booze is economically important and the wine lobby is really powerful. But yeah, the culture of booze in France does feel generally like it is diminishing. Like it's very rare now to see like anyone having wine at lunch, at least in a work canteen. Maybe in a restaurant they would. But if you look at like, you know, the number of fun non-alcoholic drinks available on like the menu of a bar, it's way more than it was a few years ago. So stuff is shifting in general, I think.
Yeah, it really is. And I will say I've gone back to drinking occasionally, but I do really notice the difference, like just my energy levels and stuff like that. And it's quite cool how quick that goes. I find that quite motivating. I really noticed so much more of a difference than I expected. And I also remember, didn't you tell me that your husband stopped drinking out of solidarity and then he was like subtly glowing in his skin?
Yes, he had a pregnant glow.
I love that. So join your husband. One bad thing I'd like to close on is that I learned that up until the 50s, children in France were served multiple glasses of wine at lunch as a national policy.
Yes, until the 50s. At school!
That is so wild. The photos are both hilarious and really quite disturbing. But well, I just wanted to say that to emphasize there's clearly room to change on what we think is normal. Sorry it wasn't so jolly, but yay for all of our livers.
Good job, livers.